good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you happen to be in this world. Mike is here, and that can only mean one thing, that we're talking about Ableton. Welcome to ADSN 166, I think this is 166. I wrote it down this morning and I can't remember. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 166. This is the Independent Musician's Guide to Music Production. And we are just a bunch of independent musicians trying to make our way in this big, weird world where things happen. I'm going to turn off the stream on my other end so I'm not getting confused. And then here we are. My name is Curtis. Sunwarper is sadly sick this week. We wish him good health. He is missed as ever. But we have Eon Lake here. How you doing, bro?
Oh my god, I'm marginally less sick than Sunwarper, I think. I got better quicker, so I'm here. But yeah, you might hear a little difference in my voice this week. But yeah, not bad actually. It is hot here today. Very hot. Might be a slight bit more background noise than normal because it's just one of those days. Shutting the windows isn't an option, and I'm happy for that, really. I mean, it sounds like I'm a grumble, and English people have got a bad reputation for that sort of thing. I love bright, sunny weather, even when it's crazy hot. Makes me happier.
Well, there you go. It is hot. It's sunny. Have you been taking things outside, sitting in the hammock and making a few bits and bobs? You not have the time yet?
A little bit, but do you know what? The slight problem with that is you got to be in the shade because there aren't many things that have a display that I can see in bright sunlight.
It's true. It's true.
You do have to sort of, sit under a tree somewhere. But it is nice to get things outdoors a bit. And yeah, I have been doing a bit of that. But more often, it's been late nights in the studio and early mornings in the studio because I'm just messing around with the beetle crab tempera and doing granular synthesis and stuff on that. Some nice soundscapes, and the Moog Labyrinth and Subharmonicon together have just been, it's hard not to just mess around with them all the time. I've got them cross-patched with my No Coast at the moment, and that's a good laugh too. There are lots of possibilities. So, really I've just been firing up a beat and noodling with those a lot. And I'm not really worrying too much about writing this week, and just having a bit of fun instead.
Well, that's good. That's what you kind of set out to do a few weeks ago, right? Just to play and have fun and not have any expectation of what you're doing.
Yeah, and it has been more fun. And that's to say, things do come out of it. But it's nice to take the pressure off for a bit and go, you know what, I'm going to mess around. I'm going to make sure I've explored all the sound opportunities for the next album that it represents what I'm vibing to at the moment. And also, I've still got access to my drum kit, so I have been doing some practice on there as well, which I find gets me in the mood well.
I mean, that's how you get into the frame, right? You're originally a drummer, so that kind of, I imagine, moves you from daytime Eon Lake into nighttime Eon Lake, or from logical Eon Lake into creative Eon Lake.
Yeah, and I like to just either put a click on or a song on and just play. Without thinking, just play for ages until you get to that point where you don't realize you've been playing for a while. We've zoned out for a bit. Once I've zoned out at least once, I know it's safe to start looking at doing music, messing with synths and so on.
That's great.
It's weird. This week I've wanted to do different things. I've just been wanting to get analog synths and make really nice different sounds with them. Try and tease them into doing something different and break the mold a bit, and I've enjoyed it.
That's good. I mean, if you are coming from a space, we've been talking about this a lot this year, this notion of if you're coming from a space, if I'm going to sit and write something, invariably you're not going to write something.
Oh no, you're not.
Yeah. The universe has different expectations for you, and that's okay. It's fine. It's just nice to have a play, right, and just kind of just meander through things and try and see, be playful with it, be explorative, and allow yourself to just be creative in the space, right? Without kind of commenting through. Have you, in that notion though, right, within that I hear that you are also setting the stage for the next album. Okay. Sorry, my Mac, but other laptop's doing something it shouldn't do. Distracting. You can do hand gestures now, apparently.
Oh, right.
The,
That's not good. That's not good for you, is it?
Yeah, no. It's not good.
God knows what it will do.
But yeah, so like in the Notion, you're still also. Are you creating a sound palette? Is that what you're doing?
A little bit. That's an idea I borrowed from a mate of mine, Curtis. He likes to explore a sound palette before each release. I
Sounds
kind
like
of do it. I do it at all sorts of times, but no, it's. I've got a load of stuff that will be on the album. I've got a few things that I'm working on that I really like. So I've kind of got one eye on, what's going to make the cut and what of my new sketches and ideas is going to get fleshed out and added in. I don't want to pull the shutters down too quick, if there's something happening. And I don't know, there's at least 3 tracks that I want to have properly fleshed out because they could actually go on and displace some of the ones that were already on there. And there's also some stuff on the old Ableton Move that I think it's got potential too. So I'm going to give them their time, and then there'll be a cutoff point, and I'll just start working on the shortlist.
It's an interesting one. Maybe that's a topic for a future round robin. I was thinking about that today. Like, what is that cutoff point, and where does that come from? I don't want to dive into it now, but it has been on my mind this week, particularly as I wrap things up on my album. Where do we make that happen? So that's cool. It sounds like you're in a playful space, one where you are unbridled or unhindered by the notion of external product. If that makes sense, is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. I'm letting this one take its time.
That's good.
Deliberately.
I'm calling this the Hydra Fighter method.
We do seem to be in sync a little bit there. A bit simpatico, but then that's not unusual for me and him.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I just want to say hi to people in the chat and acknowledge our existence because, it's cool to have everyone here. First and foremost, we've got Abby, who's straight into the chat there. Welcome, Abby. Lovely to have you here. Hope you're doing well over there. Let us know what you've been up to and where you're going. And of course, on an episode where we are discussing discussing Mike Smith, Ableton's approach, but as we are discussing Ableton, Mike Smith is in the chat as well, where it's less fun over there. It's 15 degrees, overcast and rainy here in Glasgow. But hey, that's perfect weather to stay inside with the new lab and unable to move, right? I don't know if you've seen Mike's new doggo on his Instagram at all.
I haven't. No.
Oh, it's adorable. It's so cute.
Instagram.
Everything that's going on in the world right now, and I just find myself gravitating to Mike's Instagram so I can just have a look at the Labrador.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty solid move, to be fair, with everything that's going on.
Exactly. It's beautiful. It's wonderful.
Dogs, definitely what we need.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I'm glad you're working. I'm in a similar space.
Yeah,
I'm in a similar space. I sent everything off to Sunwarper for mastering. Realized that I'm not happy with one of the solos in one of them, and I've been rewriting the solo. And in the process of rewriting the solo, owing to my ritual, I accidentally opened up the wrong project file and rewrote another solo. and then sent that off, and then I still got to go back and write this.
You haven't done the original thing yet.
No, I haven't done the original thing that I set out to do, but I did add a harmonium, which I'm quite happy about.
Okay.
I've been playing around with one of these. If I can stretch, I've been playing around with one of these. And this is a lot of fun. And playing that through, firstly soloing it, but then layering it with a chord piece with a lot of Valhalla. That's really been lush. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's shot number 1 for anyone playing the Audionauts.
There'll be plenty more in that regard. So it's been nice. But in the same vein, I've kind of as a result, I've been purposely not writing anything. I'm still in that frame of making stuff and then deleting it, specifically deleting it. And
yeah, no need to edit yet.
no, and I'm kind of liking that place right now. It's just there's absolutely no pressure. I'm mucking around, and I don't have any drive to make anything new. I know eventually what I want to write and where I want it to go and what kind of sound palette it wants to be. I've already got it. I've had it for years.
Do you mean for the next Curtis album or the next release that may be something different?
No, well, the next like kind of like Curtis album. Not necessarily the next release, but the next kind of like canonical one. Canonical.
You've usually got the next step for that, haven't you? It's just whether or not you choose to do something else in between, usually, isn't it?
Pretty much. It's like it's less of a decision than whether or not it feels right. It's like I know what this will be released in September. I know what this story. I know what comes after that. But I don't know. I've always just this notion of okay, now it's time. If that makes sense. There are certain limitations to that. Like I tend to flip between using a lot of voice samples and then not using a lot of voice samples and then kind of going to and fro. And I suppose it gets to that point where I feel like I can say something, if that makes sense, without coming across as just some long-haired, bearded dude who has ideas about things. Another white guy with an opinion. You know what I mean?
Unusual for white guys, isn't it?
I know. We're so meek and so just apologetic about everything. So that's nice. So I'm playing with that right now, and I'm diving into this at the same time, right? As more of the hardware, I go more hardware and more into the SP and more doorless, essentially. I'm also swinging completely the other way and just diving into Ableton 12. I downloaded Ableton 12 about 2 weeks ago. It's a lot of fun, and that's kind of what we're talking about today. 11.2 update came out a week ago, so we're a little bit slow on the uptake. I can't remember what we were talking about last week. We didn't talk about it last week. We talked about something else.
I wasn't here last week.
Yeah, I can't remember what we talked about. I know the round robin.
Take the plunge with Ableton 12.2 in a couple of weeks. I haven't had a chance yet, but I will do on my laptop first, I think.
Okay, I get that. What? Any particular reason? Keep it moving, or what?
Actually, I can't do it on my iMac, so it's going to have to be just a laptop. But that will give me access to all my Move stuff then. No real hurry, but I think soon I might be ready to transfer some stuff out and start working on it. And free up space for some more stuff.
I get that. It's I suppose you're shunting it out, right? The limitation of the Move in that sense is the 8x4 was 8x4. I'm not a mathematician. I failed maths, but that amount of sets, and then yeah, and then it's full, and you have to kind of clean it out and start again, right?
Yeah, I mean I've deleted the demos.
Oh yeah, good. I mean, nothing wrong with those demos, but your stuff's better.
They showed the flexibility of the instrument, but they're horrible.
Yeah. I'm curious to see. I haven't explored the Move to the extent where I can talk about it with confidence. I like what seems to be the new update seems to have taken it to another level. Mike might be able to confirm. So
yeah, is that out then? Because they've released the parent software, or are we still waiting for that? I wasn't sure actually. I haven't turned mine on to check if it's got an update.
I've just updated to 1.5 on mine.
Right.
I
can't remember what mine's running.
We'll have to see. I immediately when I bought it or got it, I updated to 1.4, and then I think a couple of days ago went to 1.5. Again, can't speak with authority about what that means. I need to dive into that. It's been a mental week, but Mike says yep. Okay, and again, it looks as like Restreamer's got it in for you, Eon, like because it just every time we bring something up, it's just just straight away.
That's fine. I don't mind.
It's fine.
That's great because I hear it's getting auto filter, which is my single most used stock plugin in Ableton, without question.
Really?
Along with compressor and the 8-channel EQ.
Well,
Use it on everything. There's loads of auto filter, tons of it.
well, if you use tons of the auto filter, I think you'll like what 11.2 has got, because the updates to it are pretty insane in that regard.
Yeah, it looks better, definitely, and the new models I think will be good.
Yeah,
Only used a couple of them really.
exactly.
No.
They are fun. So let's take a look at it, shall we? I want to go in order that my brain has them in, because I'm riffing. I'm riffing this based on the template that I made today. So we're gonna go for this. So I want to start down here, which I think is pretty fun. I think pretty cool, coming from an educational perspective, where one of the big things they've introduced from Max for Live, if we come across here, is Expressive Chords, which is this little box that you see here.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a cool little thing. It's a nice little idea. I'm sure there are going to be some people that scoff at this. I think it's pretty dope.
Now I believe this particular thing is for all versions, as it's a Max for Live device, but obviously does come out with this update.
That would that's a good point. I don't know. Mike is our resident Ableton expert. He'll have to clarify on that one. So yeah, let's have a look at this. So you'll notice here in this green one here, this 80s tape that I've got here, that we've got single line pieces of MIDI, right? Single line pieces of MIDI. I'm in C minor, and this expressive chord idea here basically generates chords in a really nice, cool way. So if I just come back to here and update everything here, pop use here, so you can see. And you can see if I just play this and solo it out. It's maybe not that one. That's it. That was the right one. But okay, so what you can see here, it's doing a very good job of voicing different chords for you, which is really nice. So you can stick in now these days. You don't have to necessarily know chords. You can just throw them in. You can just throw in some notes that, owing to Ableton's key or scale factor, will always be in key. And you can throw one of these VSTs on here, and it will just generate some sounds for you, which is really nice. Now, this goes one step further, in the sense that you've got these macro knobs here. You've got tilt, invert, and strum, where tilt will lean the chord voicing to lower down the frequency spectrum or higher up the frequency spectrum, for example. Right, put it up here.
Right.
And then down here. Right. And then up here we'll invert it. And which is nice. You can create some different nice little serendipitous moments, I'm calling it there.
Yeah.
And then a strum as well, which is a really nice thing. Best shown if we have a look in here, where it will not necessarily play all the notes at the same time. It will give it a strum kind of situation, which again, really nice. And you can change that around. Which I think is really nice. And then we can take this kind of scale.
It's seeming a little bit like the chord functionality and the styles on the Roland J6.
I suppose it is. Yes, I suppose it is.
It gives you different ways of playing each chord and different groupings of chords in styles. I see we've got art rock here, but I mean, presumably there's other stuff to choose from.
Totally, yeah.
Original house, etc. So you can get the whole different chord banks, edit them yourself as well, if you want to.
Completely. So I tapped in Future Soul here. Same chord progression, same MIDI coming in, and suddenly you got different sounds coming through, which is quite nice, really nice in that sense. And again, just emo house. Why not? I just see emo house right there. I don't know what emo house kind of consists of, but that's what we're going to go with. Yeah. And we can play again. Really nice. Really nice in that sense. And just before we get into it any further, again, Mike says Expressive Chords is a Max for Live device for Ableton, for Live 12 intro standard and suite that turns single notes into rich dynamic chords. So,
and not just obviously chords. I mean, it's clear here what we're trying to get away from is standard block chord voicings and into things like inversions, arpeggios, broken chords, partial arps, that sort of thing, so that it's not quite so robotic and dull, which is
oh no,
very good, I guess.
very good. Yeah, sorry, I just thought I disconnected there. Yes, it very much does. It very much creates that kind of vibe. And I think again, I lead with the notion of serendipity, because you can throw some stuff in there, and you're letting randomization, you're letting probability kind of pave the way, as opposed to having something where you are, calculated in a calculated way, putting something into the
so it's an
roll,
extension
really
of their
nice,
movement into introducing randomness and probability into the platform, but in a bit more of a musical interpretation of that, and a practical one, rather than just where you can go into a note and change its probability. And that it's a bit more handy, a bit more instinctive, I think.
Yeah, and I think take it one step. To take it one step further, you're not sitting here at the screen moving bars up and down, right? I imagine you can macro these as you want it to do, but it's quick, it's simple, it does a thing, it gives you a vibe straight away. It's not you going in. One of the things I've never been able to kind of get on board with generative is that I'm sitting at a computer and clicking buttons and assigning parameters and things like that. It's I admire people who do that. I struggle with getting into that notion, because I'm just sitting and I'm creating that. Whereas with this, I can see that bridges that gap, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It creates a space. So I'll have to see. Mike also says you can also create new chord packs in a MIDI clip and then play this into Expressive Chords to capture them, one chord per quarter note. So it's, again, a nice little way to record the stuff that you're making.
So if you do know what you're doing,
very much
you can completely customize it as well.
Yeah, that's cool. And if that's that, and I urge people to come with it in. There's a whole modulation tab where you can in theory, you could LFO these up, and you could just start throwing LFOs and just start creating really interesting things by automating these parameters here with our personally my favorite Ableton VST, which is the LFO, for example. Definitely built for modulation.
Yeah, I like the fact that all of this, I mean, you've got, it's very like the J6. In fact, you've got strum and articulation, and you can potentially you could potentially modulate those. And if you want it to step, then obviously using a square wave to modulate it, you can step between values as well. That could be interesting.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I do recommend going to go check it out. Definitely. We're carrying. There's a lot to get through, so I could talk about this for another 20 minutes, but I do want to move on because we've got a lot to get through, and it's 1:30. One of the things here, I believe this is where some Logic users might get a little bit funny, because this has just been introduced here. If we take our MIDI clip and we bounce to a new track, it will automatically create a new track underneath with that MIDI clip bounced out to audio quite nicely, which is a small thing.
I suppose you're duty bound to reverse that audio clip as well and play it in place.
Of course. Of course, right? So we do that. We turn it into a little one shot. We just solo these guys out here, and suddenly... like that. That's pretty good. That's really pretty. That's really pretty right there. So the connectability, it's a small thing, but again, bridging that gap between
this is the thing. I think some of these little updates that they put in don't seem like much, but they make certain workflows a lot quicker and easier. I think there's a lot of micro gains in this update. That way.
Micro gains is a good way of putting it. I like that. Yeah, very much so. These little small nifty things that just make things work a bit quicker, right, and make it work a bit nicer. It's definitely Ableton 12 itself. I don't know about you. I always thought it was definitely for the inbox producers and for those who are dedicated
Well, that's
to
my
using stuff
default
inside
mental
Ableton.
position, but I don't think it's particularly accurate. Doesn't stand up to questioning, really. I think there is actually a lot of stuff in there that you can benefit from it, even if you don't use the DAW heavily.
Completely, yes. But nonetheless, these things that come through that make it just a little bit easier to get things done. So yeah, very happy about that. Appeasing the Ableton maestro, as he says, get on with it.
Getting
We
on,
shall
sir.
continue
Yes.
moving on. We're getting on. Sorry, sir. Sorry, we are here for you. Let's talk about the filter. Let's get rid of these for now and reset this a little bit. The filter has a massive upgrade, and I've got two examples here. One on this same track, which I just want to kind of go through some of the updates that have been made to the auto filter, and then below we've got a little kind of like a side chain situation with a quintessential kick and bass, just to kind of see where it's going on. So, moving up first to the auto filter. As you can see, there's a spectrum now involved, so we can see things come through. We can see things come through. You can see where things kind of lie on the spectrum, which is nice for EQing, nice for seeing where you're at in that regard as well. Down here, we have different forms of our filters as well. So we've got our classic low pass, our classic high pass, band pass, and notch. But also we have these things such as morph, DJ, comb, resampling, notch and low pass, and vowel. I'm going to put vowel in here very quickly because, again, I just want to discuss and look at this modulation that we've got going on, essentially, which is really, really quite nice. But essentially, straight away, by modulating that ever so nicely, you're creating beautiful.
That's quite a musical modulation there. I like it, yeah.
All right.
It's an performance
Yeah,
being
me too. And it's
modulated.
yeah, that's what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. And that is just again, I want to say very serendipitous. I think I'm going to say this a lot over the course of this show today. It just creates that instant kind of wow factor where you're taking what essentially is quite a relatively kind of bland sound and making it something kind of special in that sense.
A bit more liquid sounding.
Say that again, sorry. A bit more liquid sounding, yeah, very much so. Here's our comb filter, just for putting that. Nice detuning coming in there.
Nice.
So yeah, very nice sounds coming in there as well. What really gets into me here is when we start bringing in this step notion here. So we can really start playing around with how it modulates and how the LFO kind of moves through. Saying wow factor about a formant filter
Yeah,
is pretty literal. It's fair. Yeah, but easily amused. It's always good, you know. But if we have a look at this step count here, we can start really diving into what this guy can do. Again,
you've got
up
something
this
really
down.
harmonically rich like that with lots of partials. You're going to hear that movement. That's good.
Yeah. Now you're obviously hearing this in mono, but if you are, well, I mean, we're all hearing this in mono, but taking this from within, you're actually starting to see that panning coming through and starting to hear that modulation come through. It's really a lot of fun. It's really deep, really interesting in a way to go forward. One for our DJs out here is that we've got a filter which is meant to emulate that of a Pioneer DJ rig, which is quite nice. Again, moving across, bridging that gap between producer and DJ. Very simple, very effective. Not much to talk about there when, I mean, putting in comparison to the vowel, but for anyone who is
Nice to
DJs
have,
out
yeah.
there, that's very nice
Cool.
in that regard. Yeah, very interesting. Ever since the SP404 did their update to include Serato, I'm always keeping my ear out for how we can bridge the gap between the producer and the DJ, because that is the same, right? We want to break down that
Sometimes
tribalism. We
there
want
is
to
no
create something
gap.
new in that regard. Exactly. So yeah, lots of fun to be had here. I want to come down to how this plays in regards to, let's just mute this example for now. I want to talk about how this kind of encroaches or comes into a point with side chaining, because it can really, again, show us where we're coming down to. What's that on there? Oh, I've got raw on there. Okay, we can come back to that. But yes, so as you can see, I've got a basic bass sound, nothing spectacular, 4 on the floor and a bit of bass. Nothing special. Though it will probably be on a Curtis album before long, because that's what we do. Mediocrity is in the name of the game. So, yes, everything's coming in here. You've got more controls within the sidechain. So, I've always thought that the side chaining within the compressor or the glue compressor can be a little bit fiddly. And this does kind of create a situation where it's less intrusive in that regard. So if I just enable it here, we're taking the frequency 125 hertz, and you can see that if we select this little headphone piece here, we can see what is being sidechained, or hear what's being sidechained, and mix it it's in itself, which is quite nice. You can instantly hear.
Yeah, you can really hear that.
It's quite nice. Yeah, really hear that come through. Which is nice. Now, one of the lovely things that I found quite nice is this envelope here. If we just take that down, we can automate the amount the envelope kind of comes through, and really start getting into that funk sound, PHONK. I don't know if you heard of that. It's down with the kids, right? It's
I've
down
heard
with the
of
kids.
it,
Yeah. You can really. We just keep this going a little bit more. You can really emphasize where that's coming from, which is really nice in that sense. Exactly, just a little bit of extra wobble coming through, and that's all within one specific. Plugin, which is really nice, because again, you're not creating vast chains of things, right? Because again, you could say, okay, I want that to be a little bit gritty. We're going to come here. We're going to get our dry filter here, and we're going to pump it. Oh, okay. So we've got some clipping. Just keep that going. Now you got more meat on that, and that's all within one plugin. And you're not, especially if you're using a push or push 2 or even a push 3. You're not messing around with massive chains. You're just doing everything with a couple of chains, which is really, really nice. Again, instant.
And you're right. If
trainability and
you
instant
are
movement.
messing around with a long chain on push, it does introduce something of menu diving to a thing that was designed to get rid of menu diving. It's not ideal.
Exactly right.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm all for having more functionality within these, because I use these stock plugins all the time because they do what they're supposed to do, and you know, once you've got used to them, they're reliable. You don't necessarily need. I think there are only a few areas where, you know, you might want to venture out into sound toys or whatever just to get something a bit special on ambience and stuff like that. But for general day-to-day duties and controlling audio and shaping things, I use the stock plugins a lot. So I like the fact that they put more in them, so you don't have to use as many of them.
I would agree with that one. It's nice, it's quick, and it's simple. Speaking of which, if we come across over to Raw, because there's been some updates to Raw and Meld as well. If I come back to our beat itself, there's this brand new filter here called dispersion, which if we just solo these things out here, You're creating a lot of nice kind of sounds coming in here. Really, really lush. Again, very serendipitous, very much there, very modulable. Or the ability to be modulated, for example. Let's put that in there. Let's just keep that going. Beautiful.
Yeah, I do like things like that when they're quantized, like doing something rhythmical, and then you've got maybe one of them that is the opposite and isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly right. I mean, imagine doubling up that drum rack, putting one to 100% raw and one completely gone, and then blending that dry signal and that serendipitous signal together. It's a really fun way of very quickly making your beat sound more interesting and
I enjoy doing
entertaining.
stuff like that, using push just to make the beat. There's also, I think they've included that view from Move as well, where you have a kit, but you've also got the 16 buttons for different pitches of whichever one hit is active at the time, and you get. I've been doing a lot of that on Move, recording a sound at slightly varied pitches to put more interest in it. Not necessarily quantizing or putting them in key, but doing that as well, and then writing a beat quickly like that, and then messing around with some effects like this, recording some automations, adding some modulation, and so on. I do quite enjoy that as a sound design session, and having little loops that you can just drop into tracks when you're writing, and you want to get a groove going quickly. It's to have in your back pocket.
There's a lot of fun to be had there, right? Yeah, exactly. Just throw it down, get it working, and again, it's like, it's coming down to this instant kind of setting you off, right? It's like the starter gun goes at the Olympics or something, and you're off, and you're making, you're great. You're not diving into things and going, oh, I want it to sound like this, or I want it to sound like that. It's giving you a sound, and you're kind of running from it. In that sense, it's a good reaction as opposed to a proactivity in that regard.
Yeah.
A couple of chats from Michael, from Mike even. Got some more from my brain. You can now tune the raw feedback pitch to a MIDI track.
That's good. That's good.
What can you see yourself doing with that?
With polyrhythms or polymetered arpeggiate, so that it doesn't necessarily cycle at the same time as whatever you've got it. I don't know how many different ways can you mess with it. Could be fun, couldn't it?
That's gonna be fun. Could be fun. I mean, it's Ableton, of course it's going to be fun, but yes, I hear what you're saying. And just to add to that as well, the 16 pitch mode
that's what I meant.
It's
one of those things. I saw it on the release video, and I thought, why on earth is that new? I mean, it's great that it is, because I really enjoy it on the Move, but I thought, yeah, that's right. You haven't been able to do that on the Push. You've been able to set bar lengths with that section for your loop, but no, not pitches. It's good to have it, yeah.
Well, it's good. Again, these little kind of nifty housekeeping updates, right? That just keep it ahead of its game. It's really nice. So yeah, coming across to Meld, because there's a lovely new update in Meld. I'm just going to reset this. I didn't reset it before coming on the show. You have, as well as all the existing wave shapes and wavetables, sorry, you now have this chord wavetable here, similar to what we were doing before with the Jaycee's tape. If I just signal this out, as you can see, my piano roll is just full of single pieces of MIDI, C's, F's, D's, G's, etc. There's no G's on that one, but you know what? The point is seeing there. And what you can do instantly, just creating a chord for you, which is beautiful. And then again, in the same way, let's bring the track up maybe 2 octaves, not there. Again, then this is obviously a fairly standard piece of MIDI, but the notion then is to create things that come with it, where you can make something coming through, which allows you to just instantly create chords as they come. As Mike says, chord wavetable is now like the chord mode on the mutable instruments
Yeah,
plates.
that seems
And instantly.
so obvious. Now he said it, yeah.
But it is nice because when you compare it with the new update, yes, exactly right. But now, if we added a resonator to it, we can now create more harmonic content within that chord itself by mapping it to the key. Again, this is something I'm still quite new to me in 12, is this notion that you can like key match everything. But it's kind of cool. He says, showing that he's still kind of new to 12 itself. Mike says, by sticking modulation on chord inversions and type, you can make really lush drones. I'm sure you bloody well
his
can.
mind is going ahead of me always. When you see things like this, I think, okay, well, what can it do fast? You know, what does it do to, you know, material? And then, like, what does it do if it never stops? You know, i.e., it's droning, and you start modulating some of this stuff. What does the change sound like? Pretty cool, I imagine. But
It's beautiful. Really, pretty much. Yeah, completely.
I'd put a shifting filter on it as well, with an offset between left and right, so that it's sort of moving like this as well.
So not only do you have a modulation, you have a modulation on your modulation.
I mean, like meta modulation.
That's
what we're about.
That is what we're about. You can never have too much modulation in that regard. Just to bring you back to this for a second, again, this an upgrade and a deeper acknowledgement of the key function that you see at the top of Ableton here. Both Meld has it, as does the Resonator as well. And then so what you can do is you can create more harmonic content by having more of these plugins, which are key match, essentially. So again, very bog standard MIDI pattern, as you can see here. I made that myself, just saying.
Maybe not where that came from.
And, what MIDI pack did that come from? But as you can see, you're instantly again modulation, changing these things around, allowing yourself to just mess around with different layers and different aspects of the digitalization of modulation in that regard. Which again, you can do it. And then, if for the third time this evening you add Supermassive
why would you
on
not?
this,
Why would you
not? Now, exactly. No, I don't have any third-party plugins on here right now.
Is it even a production laptop?
So
that's the question, you know.
Well, I hear you, and on any normal day I'd agree with you. As I'm trying to see how much I can squeeze out of stock, and I'm trying to see how much I can do. But yeah, I'm sure something will come on here before long.
You know the rules.
What? Yeah, exactly. I can't be an Audionaut if I don't have Valhalla Supermassive. But I will say that many of these updates that we've seen here are just kind of absorbing what I see as the third-party plugins, such as like Shaperbox by Cable Guys, for example. Now you don't have to go necessarily with a DAW and then spend $200 on a bundle of Cable Guys, which are beautiful plugins. Don't get me wrong. I love Cable Guys. I love Shaperbox. But with this, you don't need it. And again, as Mike will always say, Ableton can do that. And again, you can do everything in-house now. It's just absorbing more and more of the production game and the modern production game where everything is super processed.
It is.
It's beautiful.
And, but I mean, that could be a bad thing, right? I mean, you could just be overcomplicating the DAW, but I think it's all implemented in quite a usable, way that doesn't obstruct. It's just another little thing you can tweak.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I do feel, yes, you're right. It could be making things overly complicated, but you also don't have to dive into any of this stuff, do you? Like, if you can bring in your chords here, and you could just slap a normal filter on it. You don't need to worry about anything else. You don't have to worry about any of this drive notion here, and it could just be a filter, right? You don't. You don't need to
Well,
go
that's true, and
into
the
the
same goes
modulation
for
tabs.
like
You don't need to go into Setzepfandt.
the compositional tools. I mean, you could argue that it's dumbing down music, and you know, but at the same time, even if you are somebody who does know music very well, it's a way for you to shape an idea or something that hasn't come from you and get some inspiration from that. I mean, you don't even have to use the end result, but you can set up a bunch of parameters and get it to produce some sort of content that might get you going. And then, whether or not
Yeah,
you keep it is
completely.
up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're doing very good. They're doing a very good job of setting that stage in that regard, and just giving you the tools that you need to ultimately create something, and just get exploring, without necessarily needing a deep knowledge of sound design and a deep knowledge of theory, for example, and making it more accessible to anyone who wants to be creative. And you can't, in my head, you can't fault that.
No, even if you're a purist.
Even if you're a purist, exactly. So yeah, those are the updates coming through, which is nice to see. Any questions? Anything
No,
before I
I
shut
think
this
I'm going to
down?
have some fun with that, though. I'll be visiting some of the old favourites as well to see if they've changed in any way, if there's any other under the hood minor things going on.
I get that. I think it'd be nice to see. Let me just get rid of use.
I'm also
Delete
wondering
use.
where I've done things like set up my own groups and effects chains where, with mid-side processing and things like that, whether they will carry over neatly in the upgrade. I'll be interested to find out. I mean, I could build them again if not, but that's the thing that interests me.
I hear that. I haven't had any issues transporting my groups across. Just saying, I've got that big kind of. Well, it's now up to 33 channel
Yeah,
template.
so
That
stress tested the templates at least.
So I haven't had any problems yet. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll have to see. So that's kind of the updates coming from 12.2. Let us know what speaks to you most likely, whether you're watching this live or whether you are watching this back on either YouTube or Spotify. As Mike says, there's a lot of fun here for the idea of generative methods. Again, Lazy Producer, I think it's now on GitHub. Mike, if you want to put that link, I want to get that out there because I want to. That's my post-summer homework. Is that right there? Find a nice way of doing it. But yeah, what have you been vibing when it comes to it? When it comes to 12.2, have you been vibing with it? Are you sticking with 11? I was so adamant that I wouldn't upgrade to 12, and then it got given to me as part of a standard upgrade, and now I'm not looking back. And now I won't even touch my other one because it's 11. So where do you sit with that? Let us know. Anything more on that, Ian?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, we'll get that. This was all made. We'll do a community corner quickly and then move on to the last little bit. This show was brought to us by patrons. Thank you ever so much, Mike, Abby, are both patrons here for a long time now. They and others make this show possible. We don't have adverts, we don't have sponsorships or anything like that. But the fact that we can broadcast to you on a weekly basis and keep these demos going and alive is down to our patrons. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, our hearts. If you like what we do and you want to consider becoming a patron, head across to patreon.com/audionautic or get that QR code, which is definitely not obscuring Eon Lake's face today. If you do this, maybe a little bit more, we can see. There we go. Always good. This is where you can support us directly. There are beautiful ways you get early access to our releases, mine and Sunwarper's releases, as well as early access or early streamability to the tracks that we put out or the albums that we put out on our record label Audionautic Records. Got a brand new LP coming out from FCC in a week or two. The specific date escapes me. I've got it. We've got our, I think, Spotlight episode is next week. So yeah, it's got to be next week. We've got to be dropping it. It's got to be next week. I'm also seeing Paul tomorrow. So I'll have to double check that one, but yeah, it's gonna be good. So yeah, you can get that early if you're on a Patreon, and you can just help us out, keep the lights on, so to speak, and keep us growing and together. We love hanging out with you. Our next Star Stream, which is our patron only hangout, is on the 22nd of 22nd of June, which is this Sunday. Actually, time is ticking. I swear I had another week before I left for Vietnam, but that's just not happening. That's just not happening. Yeah, 22nd of June is our Patreon hangout. So if you want to get involved, hanging out from 7 p.m. UTC, the link will be on the Patreon, and it will be in the Patreon only section of our Discord. Which, if you like Discord, head across over and see the burgeoning community that is there. I've been busy. I've not had much time to be there recently, but there is a lovely community there. And I've been missing it dearly.
People on there. Good ideas.
So. Very talented people. Exactly. It's a great place to share ideas, share what you're up to, and share your own creative journey, which sticks us nicely into our round robin. Have you got time for this, Ehmke? It is 9 o'clock where I'm at. Are you good? You got time? Excellent. Our round robin is our community discussion episode or segment of the show, where we discuss existential ideas of the creative journey. Sometimes we talk marketing, sometimes we talk about music theory, whatever it is that basically on a Tuesday morning I wake up and think, oh, what do I want to talk about today?
Sometimes suggested by patrons or other members of the Discord.
Absolutely, yes. And they tend to be some of the best ones that we do. There is something I want to bring to the table next week from Smiling Errors. Put it in just as I had finished crafting the show for this week. But it's very good. Again, we haven't had a Spotify episode in a while, so that's what we're going to talk about next week.
Very good.
So yeah, that'd be fun. But last week we talked about the notion of evolving, and it's okay to evolve, and it's okay to somewhat separate yourself from a sound that you originally started out on, for example. And that part of the creative journey is to move through those motions and to change, adapt, evolve your sound as you as a human being or Brudonian tend to do, right? That was the notion. That's what we discussed last week. This week, I want to bring to the table a collective meditation on the complete antithesis of that. The notion of, right, I know, right, hypernormalization, what's going on? Because as much as it is good to evolve and as much as it is good to adapt your sound and explore new worlds and new genres and new sound design techniques and all that, that should not come at the expense of having and owning and acknowledging your own creative workflows which are unique to yourself, that make you
identity,
who you are.
But perhaps in a broad sense.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, is there a particular process? Is there a particular trick, or is there a particular ritual, or anything that will never change throughout your creative process because it is intrinsically what you are as a musician and what you are as an artist. Not necessarily about the sound. It can be about the sound. I have some ideas, obviously, but is there anything that as much as we change and much as we adapt and grow, is there anything within your workflow or sound design that you have this innate feeling will never change and will always be part of the Eon Lake or whatever sound?
Do you want to start us off with that, or are you gonna put me on the spot?
Well, I mean, seeing as I've had a day or so to meditate,
and by all means, give us ideas in the chat as well for something about your journey that won't change while you're looking to change other things.
Yes. Yes, please. We'd love to know more. We are just two dudes with microphones, and that's fine, and that's great, and we're two great people with microphones, but we are just two dudes with microphones nonetheless. So yeah. I'm going to bring up the chat, see if anything comes through. Hey, we have David in the chat. Asaph Stripe. Nice to see you, man. Hope you're cool with that. But I'd love to know, David, if there's anything that's intrinsic to the Asaph Stripe sound, and there's something that will fundamentally stay at the core of what you do and where you're at, essentially. So let us know. It'd be really good to see. For me, I've got two, but I mean, I suppose I'll stick with the notions. I do believe, and I think I can fundamentally say that everything I do will always come from a space of live looping. Be that through a looper, or be that through session view in Ableton or whatever. For me, everything always comes from basically starting with a loop or starting with a sound, looping it, and then building upon that loop until I've got X amount of loops, and then I start to go back and I start to go to arrange it. There's something fundamentally for me that I love about the notion of, firstly, the improvisational stuff that comes with that, and the immediacy of I play a chord or I play a few notes or I pluck a few strings or whatever, and then that's that, and I have to go with that, and whatever that is, it's going to be, right? Even if I've mucked up a few things here and there, that is what it is, and I've got to work with that. I've got to bend with that as opposed to try and create anything else, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that there's the immediacy and the improvisational side of things. I don't know what I'm going to create before I go and create it.
When you say looping, do you mean audio always? Or do you mean potentially MIDI as well? So that you could perhaps change the sound, but you can keep the performance.
No, I don't. Well, that's a good question. My immediate reaction, as you can see, was no, because I don't tend to do that. Because I tend to do my sound design or my sound selection well before I'll have sessions where I'll just sit with Ableton and I'll just, I'll build a patch, and then I'll come back to it, 2-3 weeks later, and I'll play with that, and I'll open something up and go, okay, this is time to go. I'm not using presets much these days. When it comes to MIDI, I'm using init patches on drift and wavetable and operator, and then building from scratch as I go. That's kind of where I'm going in that regard. So I don't tend to change things. I don't like it. Or maybe that's just where I'm at. Maybe that will evolve, but yeah.
Sometimes you get fed up with things, don't you? Doing things the same way. It's not always easy to anticipate what those things will be.
No. So I suppose that would be my first one. And I've done a lot of talking, so I'm going to throw it back out, and I'm going to go through some of the chat, give you a little bit more time before we come into it. But that's what I would say. I think I'm always going to come from a space of live looping. I've tried doing other things. I've tried putting in samples, and I've tried making a beat and then splicing it in, or recording a guitar part and then chopping it up. I don't like it. It's too clunky for me. It doesn't speak to me. Doesn't fit with my chimp brain. But yes. So Mike, intrinsic to the Mike K. Smith is probability and randomness. And he says that twice.
Oh, but yeah, so sound the really second time. Yeah. I mean, if you know Mike's work and his Lazy Producer book that he's got coming out, you'll understand why. And there's some very interesting material on his YouTube channel in regard to that. But I would second what he says there. Once you've introduced a small amount of probability and randomness and so on, and found uses for it in your workflow, it's hard to imagine not doing that at all at any point, I must say.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to get away from the serendipitous nature of it all, right? Mm-hmm. I can see why Mike is increasingly going towards the Ableton route. But yeah, absolutely. Probability and randomness in that sense is a beautiful thing to have, especially when you're trying to build something unique and never been heard before, right? Again, polyrhythms, right? There's a sense of randomness in that, which, you layer polyrhythms upon polyrhythms, and suddenly you've got something which has potentially has an infinite movement.
Indeed.
Completely. Asaph Stripes, David says, tough question. I guess approaching the music like abstract art. Would you like to expand on that, David? We know that a lot of David's work is paired with artwork from his father, which is a really interesting little concept. Does that play into it at all? Maybe I'm assuming there. Let me know.
Well,
But
I
Eon
think
Lake,
David's hit on something
any
there, because when I think about things that are less likely to change in what I do, I'm inclined to think that there are things more to do with approach and philosophy of doing it than actual, I don't know, quirks of working or sound design or particular ways of writing music or anything like that. Because, you know, we've talked about things like this a lot in the past, and there are deliberate reasons for trying to keep some of these things in flux and create interest and variety and so on. But I think really what I'm doing, why I'm doing, and how I want to go about it, or what I want to get out of it, change a lot less than the reality of doing it. And I don't know, I see it personally as a kind of a curative thing, you know, curating sounds, combinations of sounds, ideas about how things play off against each other, about what it is you're capable of doing yourself. Like, I play drums. I always said to myself, you know, my music's always going to have some sort of drums in it, you know, like played rather than just programmed. I end up doing a lot more programming than I'd kind of expected or anticipated. So I might start pushing that back in the other direction a bit and recording more of playing the kit and incorporating that. But there will always be some amount of me doing what I can. I play little bits of guitar, I play bass, you know, and I've got a lot of synthesizers that have keyboards on them, and I do play those. So I don't know. I'm just trying. I'm trying to make it as me as it can be, not because I'm some massive egotist or anything, but because I believe that that's your USP, is the fact that it's you. It's about your ideas, your sensibilities, the sounds you like, you know, the grooves you like, you know, the combination of influences over the years that you've listened to and the music that's moved you, and your reaction to that is kind of that's what you have to offer, really, isn't it? You know, that's your USP. So I try to not sound like a massive egotist and just do it that way anyway, because if you don't do music that you really like, I don't think you will ever really develop your own identity very much. And B, I don't think you'll enjoy it. You know, and how can you expect other people to like something you don't even like yourself? You know, you're just, you know, writing to order or something. So I think the attitude is less likely to change than the myriad ways you might express that philosophy in trying to write and record music.
That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. I want to just say hi to Cresshead and get him looped in before coming back to it. Cresshead's back. He's editing a video. I hope that went well. I want to see that video. But yeah, just for reference, we're talking about the things on our creative journey, our workflows, our philosophies, or our ideas, techniques, etc., which you believe fundamentally will not change. If last week we talked about the evolution of our sound and the evolution of our creative journey, we're talking about what things are fundamentally at the core and you believe will never change. I just do me, he says instantly. People can come along for the ride or not.
See?
Fantastic. What?
Some people I really love, who I really think are visionary. They're just unapologetically just doing whatever it is that moves them. You know, and I think that's the beauty of it, and that's it's sharing that. I'm genuinely interested in what other people really care about. You know, what really makes them tick, and they want to share that. I want to hear it. It's a great way to meet people, if you know what I mean, in a different way.
Yeah,
I think that's where the beauty is, rather than trying to sort of conform to a genre or a strict set of rules or something like that. It's just about freedom of expression. I think in the coming age of AI, you know, it's our human qualities that will be more valuable.
I would agree with that one. Just to play devil's advocate, to borrow Sunwarper's phrase, at the same time, Mike Smith says Cresshead. What makes Cresshead? Cresshead? This notion of, yes, okay, sure, artistically, creatively, we do us and we do what we feel is right, and that's the universe expressing itself as it wants to through us, right? But how does that physically manifest? Through uh, is that through example through sampling, for example? Is that through a particular method in which we go? It's just, again, curiosity. Where's it coming from? um Again, Chris Head says, whatever I use to make music, it's still me. Bass guitar, MPC, 4-track, whatever, it's me. Yeah, Chris Head
Yeah.
is an emotive beast, as David
And I like
says,
the
which is a
fact
great
that,
way of
the
putting it.
best
Yeah,
answer is like, well, let me show you.
yeah, yeah. Well, let me show you. I like that. I like that. I like riffs. Says Cresshead, melodies and counterpoints. I'm not a chord type person. I vibe with that massively. I vibe with that. The notion of not playing chords is fantastic and fundamentally true. I've worked with so many people who get hung up on chord progressions and tie themselves in knots trying to play something, trying to play chords. And there's nothing wrong with chords, but there's nothing like interloping different melodies together from different parts of the frequencies. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. Exactly. There you go, says Mike Smith. Yeah. I do sad songs mainly, says Cresshead, but with some sort of inner strength. Yeah, that sounds a lot nice. It reminds me of FCC, Frequency Control Center. I always call it optimistic melancholy. It's always a lot of fun in that regard. So yeah, any more on that, Ian,
Well,
on your end?
what's not going to change? It's going to have synths in it. It's going to have drums in it. It's probably going to have quite a lot of processing involved. I would like to think it will always be melodic or emotive
Okay.
or both.
Noise album
Probably
going out on
not.
the
Probably not,
Records.
or at least not as Eon Lake, because it's not really the philosophy. But who knows? There could be a place for that. But yeah, my music is intended to be melodic or harmonic and emotive as much as possible. Beyond that, I mean, you can interpret that however the hell you like, and the idea of interpreting it as many different ways as possible, for as long as I can, that's what it's all about. That's the goal.
I like that. I like that. Unapologetically so.
Yeah,
In that sense
just
as
like
well.
Chris said.
Just like Chris said in that regard. That's lovely. I know what you mean. I think I'll always do my ritual. I don't think that'll ever change. That's like my space, right? It's not directly related to the music, but I can't. That's why I think I struggle with like taking an hour here and an hour there, because I have to be in a similar vein to you. Like I've got to kind of play things out for a little while. I've got to sit down. I've got to have a cup of tea. I've got to listen to some
It will
music.
always
I've
be
got to
tea.
journal.
That's not going
Gotta
to change, is it?
no, there's always gonna be tea involved. As I get older, there might be different types of tea. There's definitely less caffeine in my tea these days, but there'll always be tea involved. But yeah, then I go and write, and it's a sesh, right? And it's a whole thing. There's halves to it, and there's moments to it, and it's I don't think that'll ever change because it's my time. Fundamentally, it's like everyone. It's also like fundamentally where I shut the door and like no one talks to me. Like leave me alone. And let me do my thing. Let me be a gremlin in this studio and let me do my thing.
Creepy crawly in a techno cave.
That's me.
Strange sounds.
I love it, man. So yeah, just another thing from Cresshead before moving across. I did a mix the other day and muted the drums to see what was happening. Then decided, ooh, this sounds okay as it is, and I put out a version without drums.
Yeah.
Boom, there you go. So surprising yourself. He says always be always open to play and try stuff out.
Yeah, and that is one of the things I use Ableton for, is just getting all the ideas in there so that it's easy to audition them against each other, see what bits really sort of work and what bits are maybe not needed in that way, you know. Chop some bits out. Has it lost something? No. You probably shouldn't use that bit. Exactly.
You can do without that.
I
Right?
mean, obviously, you could do that with any door, and I recommend you do.
Yeah, do whatever you want. We've had a very Ableton heavy sesh today. Like we had a Logic heavy sesh the other week. There are many DAWs, and as the BBC would say, other DAWs are available. And but yeah, it's fun. I will say, I must say, as a closing remark, I was mucking around with helping the kids record some drums a couple of days ago, and they're using FL Studio. Nothing wrong with FL Studio; it's fine. But I was using a Tascam Model 12, running that as a bus into a stereo 2-track into the mixer on the main console, essentially. And it wasn't working. It didn't pick it up, and it just we couldn't get it out. You know, just it didn't work. And so I got rid of. I was just set. You know, the task more and more hard. What I'm trying to get across is in a very clumsy way is that these items like the Tascam 12 are built more and more for this integration directly, where you can just you plug it in, boom, straight away you've got a multi-track system going there. And it just, Ableton does bridge that gap, I feel, between a performative technique and a DAW. And it's all in one. And if you master it, you don't have to master anything else. So that's what I'm going with.
It's a good thing Sunwarper's not here, isn't it?
we miss
have us there, though.
But yeah. There would be pushback on what I've just said for sure, and that's okay. That's fine.
Right,
everyone's entitled to an opinion. That's just mine. He would be right. So yeah, we are coming towards the end. It's getting on for 20 past the hour. So thank you ever so much for being here. In my foolishness and my inability to manage my time to the level I expect it to, I still have not uploaded an outro video. And that's poor by this point. But maybe I'll do it when I get back from Vietnam. I've only got one more week before we go off for pre-recorded stuff for 5 weeks. But I will put a video up. So in a bit, there is going to be an abrupt end. So before we get to that point, and I ask Ian Lake if there's anything else he wants to say, I will just structure it and say thank you ever so much for tuning in. Many of you for an hour and 12 minutes by this point. Really appreciate your time. You could be anywhere in the world right now, and you're choosing to spend your time with us, and that's amazing. Really appreciate you hanging out and coming down and giving us your thoughts and where you're at, especially Mike, when he says that we're kind of waffling on a bit too much. I really appreciate that. It's good to know where the limit is, right? It's good to know where the limit is. So yeah, so thank you for that. We'll be back next week where... yes, we will be talking to FCC about his new album, which is going to be really exciting.
Really not just the album, but grilling him about it particularly.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. If you like that, what we do have coming through in July is I sit down with him for an hour and we just talk about his process and his workflow and his album and his sound for just an hour.
That's the stuff I love.
So that's to look forward to. Exactly. So yeah, getting diving deep there into the FCC sound. So that'll be in 2 weeks, I think. So yeah, yeah. Any more professional waffles?
When's the next Patreon Starstream?
It's this Sunday, 22nd. This Sunday.
Beyond that, I would just say, get well soon.
Get on that.
Sunwarper. And thank you ever so much to everyone who's joined us in the chat. Kept us going. Made us laugh when we're trying to talk.
Kept us on our professional waffles.
Mentioning no names.
It's beautiful. Chris said, we hope that rewinding and picking up will be there when you get back. Feel free to drop any comments or thoughts in the Discord. It'd be nice to see. I'm going to hit the end stream. Thank you, everyone, for being here. absolute appreciation. Hopefully see you on Sunday for the patrons, and we'll be back next week, 25th at normal time. We'll see you there.